Hi, and welcome back to the Be Productive podcast. And here on this podcast, we focus on the one thing approach and highlight a different area each week to help you transform how you view, set, and achieve your goals. And through our proven approach, we'll help guide you to take your big ambitions, break them down into smaller goals and activities, and with regular adjustments along the way. This way, you can achieve anything you want. And today, I'm really lucky to have the wonderful Brooke Lehman on with us, and we're going to talk about the power of success habits. And success habits really, they provide their strength and our ability to shape our actions and behaviors over time. And when we develop good habits and routines, we believe you can create a system that supports your goals and maximizes your productivity. And Brooke, I'm curious, when you think about habits in general, what differentiates a success habit from just a general habit?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I feel like you and Mark talked about this last week, but Jay Papasan said that he's figured out that 90% of his success is tied back to two habits. And I think that's really the way that we can look at success habits. It's the things that we implement into our world, the habits that we do that actually create lots and lots of success in many different areas of our lives.
I love that. Yeah, I try to think about, because I've got a ton of habits, right? I mean, some of them I'm intentional about. Others, like, maybe you could call it a bad habit. I don't know. But I have a ton of habits, but I'm trying to, when I think about success habits, they're just very intentional, right? They're in alignment with a goal that I have for myself and somewhere I want to get to. And I'm thinking about, like, well, what are the things that I need to do daily that just propel me towards kind of the milestones to my goal? But do you think about it that way too?
Yeah, I mean, we've got lots of habits, right? We brush our teeth, we floss, there's, make our coffee in the morning. Those are the things that we do every day that help us to just live our lives successfully. But when we think about a success habit, like when I think about what mine are, the ones that really stand out for me is when I started time blocking, it just changed my life. And that's been a habit that I stick with and marking my calendar for everything, like birthdays that are coming up, travel time, my lunches. And that for me is one of my success habits. I think the other one is not keeping anything in my head. So instead of like capturing action items in my head, I put them somewhere else. And so if I'm out on the road or my computer's not in front of me, I'll email myself. And then that action item is in my inbox and I know that I'm always going to come back to it. And that has made such a difference in my success because I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not, waking up in the middle of the night thinking about, oh my gosh, I was supposed to do this and I forgot about it. And yeah, I mean, I'm curious what your success habits are if you think about it that way.
Yeah. Oh, one for sure that's been a game changer for me is I do 15 minutes of daily reflection and planning every morning, minimum, even on the weekends. And even if it means I've got a yard work to do, because that's what you do as a homeowner that I learned as an adult. But even if it's like yard work I have to do, I'm still like, hey, what does success look like today? Like what are my goals? And I do that every single day. And it's been a game changer for me. Just even if the reflection part is all I get to, and I'm just taking the time to just clear my head before I get into my email and get into my everybody else's priorities. So that's been a game changer for me.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it's about reflection. And if we really take it down to what's the biggest success habit that somebody can implement, I think it comes back to the focusing question from the book. And creating a habit around asking that on a regular basis, or anytime that you're stressed or overwhelmed, just sitting down and saying, what's the one thing that I can do for X, for this thing that is causing me stress or anxiety that would make everything else easier or unnecessary. I think that can be such a simple thing to implement, but really can create massive returns by just asking the focusing question.
Yeah, it's great. I know we do it in our coaching, and if we're wise enough to coach ourselves or leverage the strength of others, that even just asking what's the one thing, like in the kind of abbreviated version of that's super powerful, just to narrow your focus down.
Absolutely. I think I do it more than I realize I do it just because it's been ingrained in us being a part of this organization, and because we're asking our coaching clients, and when we're working with individuals, we're saying, what's the one thing? But I think that it really does, it just provides clarity, and a lot of times that's all that we're missing is clarity. So if we can get clarity, it leads to success.
That's so true. So success habits, like it on the surface, it almost feels like we're saying there's tremendous power in success habits. It almost makes me feel like the habit has to be this big, impactful thing, but that's probably not true, right? A really powerful success habit could be something very small.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you think about the 7 circles and you look at each of the circles and ask yourself, what could be a success habit in that? When it comes to your key relationships, it could be as simple as, if you have a spouse or a partner, telling that person, I love you every day. And that could create massive amounts of success in your relationship.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, just naturally think, you have to create these big, almost on the surface, like behavioral changes in short periods of time. And really it's going small. It's like, what are the tiny actions you can take? And then over time those behaviors can grow, right?
Absolutely. And, we talk about habit stacking. And so if you start with something really small and then you add another habit to that and then another habit to that, eventually you've created a whole habit routine that may seem a lot bigger than that first habit that you started with.
So how do we get to a success habit? Like, what's a process somebody could consider if they're listening to this and they're like, yes, I'm bought in. I want my success habit. How do they discover that, or what's one way they could go about it?
I think doing the exercise of asking the focusing question. So that might just be your habit by itself, is asking the focusing question. Mm-hmm. But when you use that, you're asking, you're trying to get clarity. So what's the one thing I can do for my business, for my job, for my health? And by doing that, everything else becomes easier and necessary. And you just keep asking that until you get to something that is so small that it seems silly. And what we're doing is kind of backwards engineering. What do you really want in this area of your life? What does success look like down the road and when it's extraordinary? And then when you get to, we always say this, the 2-inch domino, when we get to that 2-inch domino, that could be the small, simple success habit that you first knock over that's going to set everything else in motion.
I love that. Yeah, there are 2 paths there's overlap on these that come to mind for me when I think about identifying habits that support the goals that I set. And one is following that process you just mentioned, which is, okay, let's work our way back to, I like to start the goal and then the milestones. And it's like, I want to be here in a month and here's my goal for the week. And like, is there something I could do daily that would support where I want to get, for the month and for the year? And the process you just mentioned by asking the focusing question to drill down to the root behavior. There's also something that when I just look at the goal, even bigger, like someday goals and like the longer path forward, and think about a little bit more of like, what are the types of things that someone does that is successful in this area. Mm-hmm. And I think about like, what are some different like behavioral changes I might need to make that are more habit forming. And that helps me a lot too, because sometimes I struggle with working my way back from the goal to daily things, because oftentimes there's like a routine that's still habits. I suppose a success habit, but I find myself, it's like, okay, there's something more like once or twice a week I need to do that will help me get to my goal for the week and the month and the year. But when I think about more of the behavioral side of things, it's like, if you have a financial goal, for example, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to like check this thing daily, and I'm going to check my account daily. And sometimes it's harder for me to get to that. So maybe that helps for somebody listening, or for you, if you look at both like your path to achieving your goal, but also some just general characteristics of the type of person that would be successful in this area.
Yeah. Do you think that it's necessary when you're looking for a success habit to have it be something that you do every single day?
I don't, but this is my opinion. I think there's habits and there's routines and there's kind of rituals and there's a lot of overlap in those. But I think success habits can be things that happen on a a multi-time per week basis. But I would imagine it's difficult to say you've really formed a success habit if you're doing it, less than once per week. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I asked you. I think that
Well, there's probably no right answer.
right, yeah. Well, when you're thinking about your job, right, there are things that you might do Monday through Friday, but you might not. It wouldn't make sense to do that on Saturday and Sunday. So perhaps there's an opportunity to create a habit that is 5 days a week. I I wonder if a 1 day a week type of thing really constitutes a habit as opposed to it just being something that you're time blocking on your calendar.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think that's the distinction. I mean, if you're trying to form a habit, it needs to be somewhat of a regular occurrence, right? I mean, maybe even multiple times per week is the threshold. I don't know. But you're trying to form some consistent behavior is ultimately the goal.
Yeah. And I think you and Mark touched on this last week too, that part of creating habits is allowing us to become the type of people that will achieve the goals that we're setting for ourselves. Because if we could already do it, we'd be doing it already. So if we're looking to create a success habit, it's about who are we becoming. And so that does kind of suggest that we're going to be doing something on a regular basis.
Yeah, so true. So we know that habits are important. It's best to be intentional about habits if we can be, and to go a step further, be intentional about setting habits that support the behaviors and the path to you achieving your goals. And when we talk about the power of success habits, we're talking about the path of achieving your goals and how these things can support them and how it can propel you to grow in that direction.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Brooke, anything else you'd add on success habits?
No, I would just say, for those folks who may be listening and really stressing themselves out that I have to find the perfect success habit for myself, I would say give yourself some grace. Try a couple of things, see if it works, and if it's not the ultimate success habit for you, try something different. And that's, it's all the path to mastery, as we like to say.
Well said. Progress over perfection.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Be Productive podcast, and we hope to see you soon.